Good evening to you all, and thank you so much for joining us, athletes and sport lovers in the southwest region of the country, precisely in Buea. Say that the absence of medical services would might mar this year's edition of the Mount Cameroon Race of Hope. They were speaking during the test race of the Mount Cameroon Race of Hope that recently took place in the southwest region of the country. And also in this newscast, residents in the capital city Yaoundé are complaining bitterly about the decision of AES Sonel to rationalize the provision of energy. They say that economic activities have come to a standstill as a result. These are major headlines, details and more just in a moment. Thank you, viewers, for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on the TV. We begin right away here in the economic capital, Douala, where a bricklayer fell off from the 8th floor of a story building here at the Douche Municipal in the economic capital, Douala, precisely in Akwa. And reports say the 25-year-old victim was not putting his safety gadget. And Annabella tells us more in the following report.
The man lying under this plywood has just died after falling off from the 8th floor of this story building he was constructing.
I don't know, we are for finesse for that. You see how someone for go for up, for down. Now the thing away you don't come now, you don't fall for down, so you die one time.
Eyewitnesses say after he missed a step, they saw the deceased descending in the air, shouting for help. He fell and reportedly died on the spot. It took about an hour for the arrival of firefighters and other gendarme officers.
Donc il n'y a personne est venu, on est resté là pendant des heures pour que les gens puissent intervenir.
The bricklayer or builder hadn't any security gadgets for protection during his work.
Malco Cameroun, un monsieur travaille comme ça là, pas de sécurité. Hein? Pas de sécurité, quelqu'un travaille comme ça, il est libre comme ça. Même pas de casque, pas de casque.
At press time, the owner of the building was still not present, and a corpse has been deposited at a local hospital mortuary.
An incident putting to question the security of builders in the country as a whole. Now we take you to the northwest region of the country, where law enforcement officers in that part of the country have confiscated the goods of an alleged gang leader in the Nitop 1 area in that part of the country. He is reported to have been behind the many cases of burglary reported around that neighborhood. And Ranibel Satowara tells us more in the following report.
This provision store in the Nitop neighborhood in Bamenda is allegedly filled with stolen items from the neighboring Pini village. At least 5 shops were broken last month in the Buchi, Menka and Konfon quarters severally by some unidentified men. As this man, owner of one of the stores, explained, the thieves forgot a cloth in his store which later helped him in his investigations.
I don't hook up. I won't come, all the children don't be down.
I got to my shop that morning and discovered that all of the locks were on the floor. I decided to do an investigation because it was evident that it was not boys of the village. What helped me is that they forgot their cloth in my shop. A mother identified the cloth and directed me to the city of Bamenda. There I discovered that the boys in question have no jobs but spend so much money.
Wait for no way till they go for town. I come, I say they don't go, nothing. But they spend money.
That is how he found his missing items alongside other provisions packed in heaps. He then alerted the police.
This thing they don't for come inside men them say no you go country boy. Yeah. That man also don't see something and you for here. Even the thing and you talk, we know what we do. You say no.
At the arrival of the police, one of the suspects by name Tizu Livinus directed the delegation to the shop of Ambi Frederick Penn, who he attested is their boss and where they eventually sell the stolen goods. The law enforcement officers who confiscated the items have opened up investigations to track down other members of the gang who are still on the run.
And activities are said to have come to a standstill in the capital city Yaoundé after AES Sonel decided to rationalize the provision of energy in some part of the capital city Yaoundé. And now residents have turned to kerosene lamp and candles as a result of a constant power cuts. And as you tell us, Roland Akon, lamp vendors are making high profits.
Vendors of kerosene lamps and candles are making brisk business now in Yaoundé.
Bon, la lampe tempête, bon, ça sort un peu pour le moment comme il y a coupure là.
Many Yaoundé inhabitants are rushing after both commodities to cope with intermittent power cuts in the capital city.
Quand il y a coupé, la lampe tempête, nous, on achète des bougies.
On ne parvenait même plus à vendre 5 lampes par jour, mais actuellement on parvient à vendre même 10 par jour.
This vendor tells us that he sells at least 10 kerosene lamps a day.
Ici, dans notre couloir, presque tout le monde est en rupture de stock.
And the story is same with this candle vendor who says he has tripled his command to meet the rising demand of candles. Prices of both commodities have also witnessed a hike. Instead of 100 francs, a candle is now sold at 150 francs CFA and at times 200 francs CFA when the demand is very high. Load shedding is a normal situation in Yaoundé during the dry season. It enables vendors of alternate sources of light to make some profit.
Now we take you to the southwest region of the country, precisely in Kupe Manenguba, where the chairman of the follow-up committee of the public investment budget for the division has cautioned that the contracts for the year 2013 would not be awarded to armchair contractors. And he was speaking during the fourth evaluation meeting to assess the level of execution of earmarked projects in that part of Cameroon. Rani Belsatowara and Derek Jato have the details of the report.
The level of execution of the public investment budget in Kupe Manenguba division stands at 88.89%. This was revealed by the divisional delegate of Minepart of Manenguba, Joseph Martins, during the fourth and last follow-up meeting to affirm the level of execution of the public investment budget of that division. Out of 65 projects awarded in 2012, only 7 are still to be completed. The chairman of the follow-up committee, Honorable Andrew, gave January 31st as the deadline for all the projects to be completed. He equally added that no payment should be given to any contractor after January 20th. Ready to take his team in the days ahead to the Tombe Hospital and ask questions as to why the 85 million contract for the construction of mother and child care unit is having a different design other than what was previewed. The chairman of the committee further added that 2013 contract would be given only to contractors that are on the field and not to those who stay elsewhere and follow work on phone. The turnout of the follow-up meeting was very timid, and sanctions promised for those who were absent.
And contractors in Kupe Manenguba have been told to perform their duties accordingly when rigorous management is the principal mission assigned to the team heading the Arbitrary Control Commission of Artists' Dues in Cameroon. The Minister of Arts and Culture, Amato Tumona, underscored the message while commissioning the president of that commission, as well as other members of the team. Roland Akona, Yaoundé-based correspondent, has the details of the report.
Jean-Calvin Oyono is commissioned into office as the new president of the Arbitration and Control Commission of Artists' Dues in Cameroon. He was commissioned into office Tuesday alongside other members of the commission by the Minister of Arts and Culture, Amato Tumona, with clearly assigned missions.
The mission I'm assigning to the new team is in continuity with what the former team was doing, that is making sure that we consolidate all the authors' rights, their revenues, and then on another hand also the management, they should respect the text, and now all authors' rights should be consolidated and sent into the special account.
The Arbitration and Control Commission manages a special account of artists' dues and shares those dues to the 4 artists' rights corporations in the country. Jean-Calvin Oyono is the 4th president of the commission since its creation in 2004. He replaces Mvomo Ela Paulette.
And now the Littoral Regional Governor, Betty Asomo, has said that he is preparing or breezing up to consult with other political parties as well as civil society actors to boost the voters registering for upcoming elections in the country. He called on all party leaders and actors of the civil society as well to be fully involved in the exercise to get the number of previewed voters registered before the close of the exercise, which is in less than 40 days. And reports say for just 40% of the previewed 800,000 voters have so far registered on the electoral list in the Littoral region. And Governor Betty Asomo also announced that security measures would be beefed up or reinforced in the region. He was speaking as he received New Year wishes today in the economic capital, Douala. Now we take you to the west region of the country where classes have resumed, though timidly, at GBHS Chang after a student who was punished reportedly died. And we hear the discipline master who punished the student has been relieved of his duty. Annabella tells us more in the following report.
Classes were disrupted at the government's bilingual high school Chang after the students went on a rampage denouncing what they termed abuse of power, maltreatment and subsequent death of Form 5 students at the institution. For not singing the national anthem, the deceased, who was a sickler, was punished, amongst others, by the discipline master to dig a pit for 3 days. Punishment which he accepted without complaint. But when late subset Tambu Steve Adrian, a sickle cell patient, realized he couldn't continue the digging, he reported to the TM with his hospital booklet. But the discipline master, Mr. Tempo Emil, gave a deaf ear and said the medical report was fake. The late boy's mother explains further. The death of the Form 5 students actually infuriated the student body of GBHS Chang, who confronted even security forces. Students were wounded and vehicles destroyed. Even the DO could not calm flaring tempers of the Irish students. They also jeered at the late boy's father, who came with a DO to affirm his child was a sickling. The students want the idea of digging pits to come to an end in their school.
On exclut les élèves définitivement, ils partent rester chez eux. Ou on les donne 6 jours, ils restent chez eux. On les demande plus de creuser les trous ici au lycée. Parce que certains de nous sont malades et quand ils présentent le canet, on se dit qu'ils sont partis fabriquer le canet et on refuse de les croire. Qu'il a creusé les trous là, que ça l'a épuisé. Il est rentré mardi, mais on l'a évacué à l'hôpital. Quand il quittait le lycée, il se sentait pas bien.
Let's subset Tambu Steve Adrian, 19 years, has been buried and the discipline master has been sacked. This incident comes after corporal punishment has been banned in most primary and secondary schools in Cameroon.
And now the over 160 participants of the test race or the 2013 test race of the Mount Cameroon Race of Hope have regretted the absence of medical services as well as some basic necessities like water in the event that took place over the weekend in Buea southwest region of the country, a situation which is said to have prompted sports observers to say that the situation might mar this year's edition of the Mount Cameroon Race of Hope. Details with Ranibel Satowara and Derek Jato.
The kick-off ritual was welcomed by Ambassador Albert Roger Miller. In the men's category, 25-year-old Northwest-born Tico Divine came first. Sarah Etonde was the first lady to cover the 50 kilometers distance to and back. Though described as colorful, judging from the full participation of high-profile personalities like the governor of the Southwest region, the test race lacked basic necessities like water, which led to the collapse of outlets. There was equally the absence of a first aid box as well as a medical team, but for sympathizers to intervene in the case of an uprising. The situation pushed some observers to say if adjustments are not made before the race proper, there would be no hope in the Race of Hope in 2013. The test race was twinned with the installation of Southwest members of the Roger Miller Foundation. After visiting the paramount ruler of Buea, Roger Miller equally visited the Buea main prison. The presence of Roger Miller generated a thunderous welcome. After listening to their problems, the roving ambassador assured the prisoners of his coming back.
And we remain with our sports page, where the African Cup of Nations currently taking place in South Africa entered its day 4 of play today, and Ivory Coast few minutes ago during an encounter with Togo led the said team by 2-1. And let's talk about the classification of the Group C. And yesterday we saw the Group A, the classification and the number of points of Group A, or teams in the Group A and the Group B. Now the Group C, we have Zambia with 1 point, Ethiopia with 1, Nigeria 1 as well, and Burkina Faso 1. And yesterday we had South Africa, that is the Group A, with 1 point, and Angola 1 point, Morocco 1 point, Cape Verde 1 point as well. And Group B, we had Mali with the highest number of points, that is 3, and Ghana 1, Democratic Republic of Congo 1, and Niger with the lowest point, that is 0. And viewers, that does it for this segment of the news, but Talking Point is up next. Thanks indeed for joining us tonight. Tonight we are going to be talking about the importance of some national symbols. We are talking about the national anthem, flag, as well as some national emblems that seem to have been losing its value. We watched a report there carrying the signature of Anabila, where a student was punished for having failed to respect the law that is governing the country. And as guests tonight, we have Mr. Elvis Key Isake. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, and thanks for having me here to talk about something which should cut across. I think that as time unfolds, we'll have time to talk more about that.
And of course, we called you up here today to talk about maybe the significance of some of these national emblems, like I just said a few minutes ago. So why the drop of this, or the drop in the patriotism of youth in the country today?
I think it will be difficult for me to, with the time we have, and in a nutshell, say exactly why this drop. But I want to note that when we talk about loving your state, it's all about that love for one's land, having that feeling that you have a right to be here. And so this drop must have come as a result of factors which might have ranged from the training back in schools. Our schools these days, they seldom teach young boys and girls on the importance of our flag, the anthem, even back at home. So much that you see when the flag is being raised anywhere, or they are trying to hoist the flag, you don't see anybody trying to stand to respect the flag. It could equally be as a result of the fact that some feel now that the state which is supposed to represent them, the love for one's state, is no longer there. They don't care about them. You see so many young boys and girls out there looking for jobs. They think that the state is not doing much. Youths are dying. You saw a while ago somebody falling from an 8 building. Which means that it means that certain steps are not being put in place nowadays to make sure that security reigns at the job site. And just to note that it takes the state now the responsibility to make sure that people get to love the state and be ready at all material time to die for the state, because that is it.
And the absence of, or the issue of unemployment and the government not taking care of the youth, it doesn't stop youth at all from being patriotic. It doesn't.
In fact, if you look at my suit, I have the flag here. A while ago, while on my way here, somebody saw it and said, "Boy, you have the flag of this country on your dress." In an amazing manner. He didn't want to believe that a young man of my type at this hour should have the flag again, because many youths out there think that the flag has not been able to represent them. But I think again that no matter the tough times that we are now, no matter the fact that jobs are not there, we still have to stick to the fact that loving your state is a step to seeing that the state should change. if you look at other parts of the world, USA, for example, last night I was opportune to watch the head of state being sworn in. You realize that everyone, whether you voted for him or not, was out. I mean, with the flag. So at the close of the day, I want to say that we cannot continuously stand on one side and say we will not love our country because it has not done what it's supposed to. It's time for the youth to say, okay, if the state is what it is now and has not been able to take its responsibilities, shall we continue to fold our arms? A statesman once said, don't always ask what the state has done for you. You should rather ask yourself what you can do for the state.
So now talking about the punishment of that student for not respecting the national anthem, do you think that the punishment was equivalent to the crime?
No.
That was committed?
No, the law says it. You do not take the laws into your hands. If the law says that violation, if they are hoisting the flag and you don't stand or you don't sing the anthem, there is a procedure. Allow those who have been charged by the Constitution to cause the Constitution to be put in place to take their place. A teacher, it is a DM or anybody has no right to execute such. I mean, at the end of the day, we are now talking about a young man who is dead. And so you realize that you take the laws into your hands, it is wrong. I think that in as much as we are crying out that people should learn to respect the flag, sing the anthem when it is being sung, even if you do not sing, but if anybody violates that, persons responsible to call others to come to order should take their place and do the job. So I want to categorically say that it is wrong, it is against the law to do such a thing.
And also given that corporal punishment was abolished in schools and the student was being punished, meaning that it's also another law that is being violated here. Yes,
it is very true that the laws, of course, allow schools to take necessary steps to make sure that there is order in schools. It could go from cutting of grass, but corporal beating and all of that is not advisable. It is any harm on any young boy or girl is not allowed. That's why you observe that even those who are caught up, if they catch a thief now, the law does not allow the gendarmes or the whomsoever to beat. Let him be charged in court, and then eventually if it's found that he actually did the act, he'll be sent to jail. So this is an indication that schools must have to advise themselves again and review how those who violate school rules are put in order. Of course, the flag is not a school's issue. We are talking about the flag of a state, not of a school. So it is not the responsibility of any school whatsoever to take upon herself to execute such an act, which should be handed to the state. It would have been advisable that the GM and the head of the institution take this young man. If you think that he's done something against the state, which I think was wrong, take him to the GO and let him be made to understand. We also have to know that this young man might have violated this thing without knowing, might have refused to sing the anthem without knowing the implications. So again, we have to educate our youth.
So it's putting into question the lack of, or the importance of civic
education is very important. It's been absent in most schools these days. I do remember in our days it was important. It was obligatory that you sing the anthem. You know the flag, the color, and you know who is the head of state, the prime minister. These things are no longer being properly taught. And even though they are taught, there's been some degree of laxity, both in schools and at home. I want to wish to know that how many youths these days even take up time to sit at home and watch the news? Very few. So in as much as schools have the responsibility to teach the youth, in as much as the father and the mother at home have the responsibility to educate their young ones, youths too should understand that it is their responsibility to know what the country in which they live in want from them. Else, when the time will come for them to take the lead, it will be scandalous. Youth will not know what the anthem stands for, the flag stands for. So it is for us to realize that if we have to be the ones who lead in the years to come, we must start by doing the things we are supposed to do now. Else, we'll run out of time.
Now, talking about, there are also some observers too, or some critics that are equally saying that Western ideas are said to be masterminding some of these problems, or the absence of the lack or the drop of this patriotism in youth as far as the national emblem, flags and others are concerned. Is that true?
Certainly it has an impact. Let me just note this. if you go out to the street now, this is an event, this is a program that, in my own opinion, young persons who've just come back from school after food should be able to sit and watch news and know what is happening around. But go out there, you realize that a majority of youths are either trying to surf on the net, chatting with friends on Facebook and so forth and so on. These are good, these are ideas that have been West, they have come from the West. The cultures from the West, even at 7 p.m. at times or 6 p.m., they prefer to watch things that will entertain them. So the issue of Western ideas and culture should be looked at from both ends. Number one, young persons must realize that there is time for them to play around, but it's also time for them to sit back at home and say, okay, 5 p.m. news in the evening, 6 p.m. news over equinox, what are they saying? What is happening? They should be able to know these things. And then you also realize that there's some degree of laxity on the part of the youths. They believe that nowadays things should come just so easily. They spend the time on the internet, like I said, they scam and do all sorts of things. So I was saying that
they have a bigger role to
play.
They
have a bigger role to play. I don't want to look. The age have played their role. It is time for the youths to realize that if we continue the way we are, I can assure you the years to come, our country will not be able to be proud of us again. And the issue of respecting the anthem, the flag will no longer be there, Mimi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elvis Kisake, and we hope to have you some other time again.
It's been a wonderful thing for you to have me to talk about things like this. I'm sure that.
Thanks indeed. Thanks indeed. And to you viewers, we thank you so much for watching. We have come to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast on ETV. Have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs. Good evening to you all.